Oh, well, hi there. I didn't even see you come in. Welcome back to Mr. Steve's kitchen. You caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting you so early in the day. All right. Well, why don't we talk about eggs today? Today, I've had a lot of requests for scrambled eggs and fried eggs, omelettes. So I'm just going to spend this entire time together doing different styles of eggs. So today we're going to do a boiled egg. We're going to fry 4 eggs with 4 different styles. We're going to do a scrambled egg, and we're going to do an omelet. So I've got all of the eggs here. We're going to work our way through it. Before I get started, I'm just going to share how eggs came into my life, really. They were the first thing that I cooked. When I was 5 years old, my mom decided that it was time for her to allow me to stop begging and actually do something in the kitchen, because I had been saying, "Mommy, can I?" And I never could. So finally one day she was like, "All right, make your egg. You've watched me enough times, make it." So I started by scrambling an egg. You have to start somewhere, okay? When I was younger, I spent a lot of the time in the kitchen because I couldn't go outside. I had some breathing issues when I was younger. And so as a result of that, I just started cooking and cooked more and more and more, and had some great successes, and I had some not so great successes, and I learned along the way. So what I'm trying to do is help you all learn along the way as well. Just a side note, I just want to address something that came up yesterday. Having spent time in the kitchen, I spent less time outdoors doing all the things that a lot of kids do. And that resulted in some tough times as I got older. I didn't do like all of the boy stuff that a lot of people wanted me to do. And so unfortunately I was bullied. So I'm just gonna throw that out there. I was bullied. Yesterday, I'm not gonna say who, but I got a text message from a student of mine who has been dealing with bullying. And the text message started by saying, "I've been having suicidal thoughts." So I just wanted to take a second and just address that, because I don't think we can ever talk about it too much. I have lived in a world, unfortunately, where I thought that was the only way out. And I can assure you, whoever you are out there, that it is not the only way out. There are so many people that care about you and love you. So if you ever have those feelings, please reach out to somebody. I'm going to add the number to the comments, and maybe I can get it here below on the screen. But anyway, there's a national hotline that you can call for suicide. And so if you can't talk to a friend or a family member, call that hotline, but please do something, because your life is too valuable. I've been there and I understand the pain. So I just wanted to take a second to address that, because suicide is no joke and bullying is no joke. So we all have to remember to just be nice to one another, and treat everybody with kindness. It goes back to the golden rule. And make sure that people around you, or that you show people around you rather, that you love them and you care about them, whoever you are. If you feel like you've been bullying people, stop it. If you are the person that's being bullied, talk about it. Talk to somebody about it, a parent, a friend, a teacher. So, I deal with students all the time that have bullying issues. And so it does my heart good when somebody reaches out for help. So just do that. Go get some help somewhere, because you are loved. Just know that. All right, so all of that being said, I am going to start with eggs. We're going to start with talking about what we need. First thing, you're going to need a spatula, because the spatula will help you turn the eggs when we fry them. You're going to need a slotted spoon, because the way that I'm going to show you how to poach eggs, you'll need a slotted spoon. I've got some cheese and some peppers and tomatoes here for the omelet that we're going to make. And I've got an egg timer that I'm going to use for our boiled egg. And then I've got this handy dandy little contraption that I'm not going to use, but I wanted to show it to you, because if you can't poach an egg the way that I show you how to do it, that's okay. You can buy one of these. There are 3 sections to this. There's a lid and there's a little container. You fill the reservoir with water, spray this with non-stick, put it on top, let that water come to a boil, put an egg in here, put the lid on it. About 4 minutes later, take this off, and you have a poached egg. And you should be able to just slide it right out. So, I'm not going to use that because I'm going to show you a way to do it without having to go buy something, even though these are like $6. So I'm just going to put that back here. Let's go ahead and start with the boiled egg. So I've got a saucepan here, just a small one. I'm only boiling 1 egg, so I wanted to show you how to do it. So egg in the pan, you're going to put enough water to cover that egg. So we're going to cover that egg by about 1 inch. There we go. And then we're going to place this on the stove. Now, this egg timer, it's a little plastic dilly that changes color as the egg cooks. You just place this on the bottom of the pan. Make sure it's clean, obviously. You just place it on the bottom of the pan, and we'll go ahead and get this started. As that cooks, that will tell you when it's done. Inside of it, it says, actually, I can show you. Inside, it says hard, medium, and soft. And so that will help you to decide what level of boiled egg you want. There's also a timer way to do it. You can, and I've done both, and they both work great. As soon as the pot comes to a boil, turn it off, put a lid on it, and let it go for 13 minutes. And that will give you a medium boiled egg. You can also just watch the pot. As soon as it boils, set a timer. 6 minutes later, take that egg out and put it in an ice bath, and you'll have a boiled egg. So I've got this boiled egg going here, and the timer is in it. So we're just gonna let that go and then start working on some other things. For the poached egg, I've got back here in the pan that I've got, you can see that there is a soft, it's getting steamed up. There is a little bit of a boil, so that's like a mild simmer, and that's what you want to do. So mild simmer is where we're going to be with that, and then we'll add the egg to that. So I have a little wet paper towel here because when I'm cracking eggs, it bugs me. I'm gonna put my trash bowl up here so I can put the eggs in there. Actually, I'm gonna slide it over here. So the slime from the eggs, the whites get on me and it bugs me. So I just always keep a moist paper towel so I can kind of wipe my hands. So give it a smack. We're gonna crack this egg into a dish. If you get any any shell in, you can use the shell to dig it back out. Just try not to. So we have our pot boiling at a light simmer. Now what we're gonna do is take our egg and just slowly lower it in to the pan. There we go, just like that. And then, immediately put a cover on it. Just cover that up. And then turn that burner off. And we're gonna let that go for 7 minutes. I'm gonna set a timer for, it's 5 to 7 minutes. So I'm gonna set a timer for 5. And that should actually be good. 7 would be for a hard boiled or a hard poached egg. We're gonna go with a soft. So 7 minutes will do there. We're just gonna let that go, just like we have the boiled egg. Now, when we're frying eggs, you want to make sure that you have a non-stick skillet, and your non-stick skillet, if it starts to stick, as mine has, give it a little coating of non-stick spray, and then you're going to heat your pan. Get it hot, but not scalding hot. You don't want the egg to fry up and bubble up and sizzle when you put it in there. We're gonna start with a sunny side up egg. So we're gonna get our pan going, and then we're gonna crack another egg. Always crack your eggs into a ramekin or a custard dish. Never, ever, ever pack them into the pan. Number one, if you're using something like butter, it could splash on you and burn you. Number two, it's just if you get a shell in there, it's hard to get out and the pan's hot and so it cooks fast. So just put it in a dish, let your pan get warm, and then we're gonna cook at a low and slow for a sunny side egg, for actually any fried egg. One thing that really bugs me is when there's that crispy brown exterior that when you eat an egg, it shouldn't crunch. The only reason it should crunch is if there's a shell there. We don't eat shells. So we're gonna go with just the egg, low and slow. This is getting hot, so I'm going to put this in. I'm gonna give it just a couple more seconds to warm up because it needs to get a little bit hotter than that. All right, our pan is hot enough now. So I'm just gonna turn it down to a medium heat, and then I'm gonna put this egg in here. It's okay if it makes a little bit, tilt the pan a little bit so all of the whites run to one side. And then we're just gonna let that go for a second. The pan was hot, so it will sizzle a little bit, but it's not gonna have those crispy brown edges. So you can see that it has started to cook already. We're just gonna let it kind of sit there and do its business. And on a low heat, the heat will come up through the egg and it's gonna allow that top to stay sunny side up. So I'm gonna move it just a little bit. We never want our egg to stick to the bottom, so just make sure that it's moving, or that it's movable. And you can see how it's working in there. If you look right here at the edges, you'll start to see that the solid from right here will come up in here as well. And once that does, then that will be done as a sunny side up. So we will let that go for just a second. We have about a minute left on our poached egg. So on low, that's gonna be fine sitting there. We're gonna get prepared for our poached egg. And the way that we do that is we use a slotted spoon. And we'll leave the cover there. We have 40 seconds till that comes out. Our eggs are starting to boil here. The timer is working, so you can start to see the heat rising up. And this timer will start to change color as it starts to boil, and so you'll know where the egg is done. All right. Now, it's time to pull our egg from our poaching bag. So I've got a couple of paper towels because you don't want to serve a wet egg. So if you've ever been to a restaurant and you've gotten the poached eggs and they come in like a little dish and there's some water floating in there, that's never okay. You want a nice dry poached egg. So the heat is already off, no need to turn anything off. But what we want to do is we want to get that egg out of there. So we pull off our lid, and then this is what it looks like when it's poached in there. And we're just going to take our slotted spoon and go underneath it. Make sure to get the egg out without breaking the yolk, just like that. Let that excess water drip off through the slots in the spoon. And then we can transfer this to our plate. So we can move over here and put that right there. Now, if there's any water, just take your paper towel, dab around the edge of it, and that is our poached egg. So you can see if I touch it, that yolk kind of moves around a little bit. So it's perfect. If I cut that egg, that yolk should run right out. So if I cut it like that, look at that. That is what you want. That's exactly what you want. So that's our poached egg. Now we have our egg here. So this is a sunny side up egg. And it is ready to go. So we'll just take that out and put it on the same plate. And we can tell that that egg, that yolk is still there, so I'm not going to cut into it. But that would be our sunny side up egg. All right, next we're going to do an over easy egg. So again, egg goes in to a ramekin or a custard bowl, a small custard dish. Clean up that goo off my fingers, I don't like it. And our pan is still going. We have it on a low heat. So I'm gonna turn it back up just a little bit to get that heat going again. I'm moving the oils back around. And then we're gonna toss this egg in here. And again, you'll hear that egg start to sizzle. If you don't want that the yolk to run out and go everywhere, either put it in slowly, or you can always tilt your pan a little. Notice how the underside of that egg is cooking and the top there's a little bit of a boil to it. Because the pan has been used before, it's hot, so you can see the oils around the edge are golden. If we let that go too long, that is going to brown those edges, and that's not what we want. So it's time at this point, you want to make sure that, again, nothing's sticking. So we should be able to move that egg around in there without breaking the yolk, and it should go fine. So we'll let that go for just a second because, again, this layer here, you want to start to see it cook through because when it cooks through, that's going to allow that turn to happen a little bit more smoothly. So we're going to let that go for a second. And you can see along the edge here, it's starting to rise up. So that's good. And then give it around. Now, I was asked to teach how to flip an egg. And so, make sure that you come in from the yolk side. If you go the other side, there's a huge chance that you're going to break that yolk. So just kind of wiggle your spatula until you get it under there, just like that. And then lift and flip, just like that. And that will be our over easy egg. And then you let that cook for 10 to 15 seconds. And that's gonna start to cook up, and that's gonna be over easy. So both sides are gonna be cooked. The white in here, you can touch it, and if it still gives too much, then that is going to be not cooked enough. But we want to pull it now because that's gonna be an over easy egg. And actually, I'm gonna flip it back over one more time to let the bottom of it kind of set up a little bit more, just a little. And then at this point, because it's cooked on both sides, we know that we can look here and kind of touch that and see that those egg whites are cooked. Now we can toss that on our plate by just sliding it out of the pan. Okay? So now we've got our poached egg, we have our sunny side up egg, we have an over easy egg, and when you cut open that over easy egg, notice how that yolk just pours right out of there. See that? It should just pour right out like that. All right, we can see that our egg is starting to boil. If you look down inside, it's at medium right now. As that closes in, that center one is hard. So we're at medium. That's where I like my eggs. So that's where we're gonna pull it. In order to pull this, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use a set of tongs. So I'm gonna use a set of tongs, and I'm just gonna pull that out of the water. We're done with that, and then I'm gonna move it back to the back and run it under some cold water. So with an ice bath, it submerges in there, and it'll be, if you're doing a whole bunch of them, submerge it in there, and that will allow it to cool off. But this is just stopping the cooking process because we don't want it to cook anymore. Make sure you always turn the stove off when you're finished using it. All right, so I'm gonna let our boiled egg just kind of sit over here and cook this out. If you don't put it in something cold, it's going to continue cooking, and the center of it is going to be harder than you want it to be. I like mine to be not runny for a boiled egg, but just beyond runny. All right, right here we have our boiled egg. we have our poached egg, we have our sunny side up, and our over easy. This is our boiled egg. So I'm going to cut in from the side and lift that up. And that's exactly how we want the inside of that. So that was a perfect boiled egg. Now we're going to do another, and this one's going to be a medium. So this will be a medium egg. And again, same pots, same skillet rather. Heat up just a tad. We're gonna pour this in. The technique I was talking about earlier is if you take the handle of the pan, put that egg in there, and then bring it all to one side and let that white sit. So I don't know if you can see it, but I'm tilting the pan to let the white set. And then once it sets, you can turn it back out, and those whites will stay where they are. And so you'll have a normal looking egg, and it's not going to be one that's like all crazy. Because you know when you play with like the rubber toys when you're a kid with the eggs, it's always like a perfect circle with a yellow dot in the center. But if you crack it in the pan, that is not what it looks like. All right, so now we've got our egg. This is able to move around the pan. That is going to be our medium egg. So you can just let that kind of sit there while that cooks to get to medium. I'm going to get our hard ready. Just a little crack, put it in the bowl. Don't crack the... I have not cracked a yolk in so long. And I just cracked a yolk. So that one's going in for our scrambled egg. It's all right, it's all right. I hate when I crack a yolk. Anyway, okay, so now, here we go. And that one did not break. That is our hard one. So we're gonna let that sit there. Now, again, you can see that the edges here are starting to firm up. So underneath, move that spatula. So the key to it is to get underneath that yolk and then just give it a flip. If you go too hard, if you slap it down, then it's going to break. But if you just give it a nice little gentle flip, it will go every time. And then we're going to let that cook through, and that will become our medium egg. So it's going to be a little bit cooked on the outside, and there'll still be a little bit of yolk that'll run inside. Now, when you're cooking an over medium or an over hard, you do kind of want the edges to get a little bit browned. You don't want them crispy though. So like if I come back underneath here and flip it again, notice how this is a little more golden, and that's exactly what we're going for. When you touch the egg with a spatula or with your finger, there's a little bit of a give. That lets you know that there's still a little bit of yolk that is not firm, and so that's going to be an over medium egg. So a little bit more, we're going to flip it one more time. And once you notice that side's starting to get a little bit browned as well, once you can feel it and see that it's firmed up, that's going to be a medium. So we're going to pull that off. We're going to put it here. And I want to show you how this one looks. So when we cut into it, there's a little less of a run, but there's still some. So you see that? So that's going to be our over medium. All right, now we're going to do our hard. So same technique, pour it in the corner. It's going to sizzle a little bit. Get rid of that. Pull this to one side. Another key to making sure that it flips easily is keeping that yolk together. So if you roll everything back up, get it down off the sides, keep everything together, and that's going to help you with your roll as well, or your flip as well. So this is going to be our hard one. Once it starts to, the bottom starts to solidify, at that point you can start to kind of move it around. Even though it's hard, you still don't want to break the yolk. You can, one of the ways that I learned how to fry an egg is I got really good at broken egg sandwiches because that would come out and then it does kind of crisp up a little bit, but that's not what a lot of people want. So for a hard egg, they want an actual hard center, which I don't know why you would want a hard center on an egg because the yolk is glorious. Anyway, so that is still needs just a little bit more time. You can still see there's some uncooked white on top, and we want to set this up like a sunny side up and let it start to turn into a sunny side up because that means the bottom is going to cook better, and then we'll flip that over and cook all the way through, and that will be a hard egg. Now I'm going to scramble one egg, so I'm going to just whisk this up. You want to make sure when you're scrambling an egg that there are no whites, there are no yolks. It's all just one pure stream of mixed liquids. Emulsification, get it all together. It should just do that. You shouldn't see any chunks of anything. Please don't ever crack a scrambled egg into a pan because that's going to cause it to have chunks of white and chunks of yellow, and that's an ew. I don't like that. All right, back to our hard egg. So you can see now that if I come underneath, I can just pick it up and then flip it over, and then we'll just leave it there, and that's going to cook all the way through. Now, for the perfect scrambled egg, you want to add just a little bit of garlic inside. Remember, my rule of thumb is cover the dish with the seasoning. If you have 2 eggs, cover enough, whisk together. If you have 2 eggs whisked together, cover it enough for 2 eggs. I only have 1 in here, so I just put a dash of garlic powder, mix that up, and then a little dash of pepper. So I'm going to put a little pinch of pepper in there. The salt comes later, okay? Salt comes later. Salt will pull the liquid out of those eggs. And we don't want to do that because they'll be like gross and runny. We don't want that. All right. So now you can touch the yolk and see that there's nothing left in there that is not cooked. You can see the bottom had the heck cooked out of it. So this is a hard egg. So we will cut our hard egg, and this is what the yolk will look like in a hard egg. So just like that. It's still a little bit moist, but the outsides are hard. So that's a hard egg. All right, we're gonna scramble this one egg. And this will go quickly because this pan is hot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to have my rubber spatula handy to begin moving the eggs. So I'm gonna take the pan off of the heat so I can put this in there and be able to show you what it does. This is a ceramic pan though, so it may continue cooking. Yeah, all right, so that like that, we'll put this here. And now you can see the edges are starting to turn white. For a scrambled egg, just pull it around, just move it around. You don't want to scramble it, like no whisking in the pan. Just move it around. At this point, when it's like that, now you can add just a pinch of salt and then get that turned around. And that, my friends, is a perfect scrambled egg. So that is one scrambled egg. Let's plate that. All right, that is our one scrambled egg. There should be nothing runny in it. So if you cut into it, it's just nice and smooth and glorious. Also, one thing I didn't mention for all of these eggs is make sure that you hit them with a little bit of salt and pepper after they come off, because that's going to season them. So like a little salt and pepper everywhere. Little salt, little pepper. That way they're seasoned. Otherwise, Just like that. Otherwise, you're gonna be eating really bland eggs, and that's not what we want. Okay, now, the last thing we're gonna do is our omelet. So we're gonna crack 2 eggs into our mixing bowl. So I have just a little like cereal bowl that I'm mixing in because I don't need a big one. 2 eggs in there. And we're gonna cook it the same way we would do the scrambled eggs. So same low and slow, low heat, hot pan. Give it a nice whisk so that you get rid of all those whites and yolks being separate. When you get finished, it should look about like that. So notice there are no areas where there are whites floating around. You can move it around. You see bubbles, but that's about it. Okay? So that is going to be our omelet. All right, so remember we seasoned the eggs. So we're gonna do just a little bit of garlic powder on top. And then a little bit of just a pinch of pepper, like that. Salt comes later. Give that a nice whisk. And then on the heat, pour that on there. And this is where, when you're making an omelet, this is where you pray that nothing sticks. Because sometimes, especially in a nonstick skillet, that's not supposed to stick, but it does. It's frustrating. All right, so you can see around the edges, the color starting to change. Tilt the pan and go around the edges just a little bit. Start to see those edges solidify a little bit. And then move through the center of the egg a couple of times, like that. Get some nice fluff in there. And then let those eggs set back up for the omelet. So just like that. Okay? So we've got some chunks in there, which is good. It's gonna create a fluffy omelet. And then come around the edge and bring these in, just like this. Bring these edges in. And then if you have, you can lift up the edges and let any of the excess run over them. So if I do like this and turn around, all of that excess egg just kind of goes around the edge and reforms. And notice that it's all cooking in the center. And so it's not gonna be a runny omelet. Nobody wants a runny omelet. And so come back and peel it away from the edges. Now at this point, it's all starting to cook. Starting to get solid. You should be able to lift from underneath. Because my pan has gone a little bit wonky on me, it's a little bit harder, and so I'm always terrified that things are gonna stick. So we're gonna take our toppings and we're going to just sprinkle those on top here. So now we have our peppers and tomatoes on top, and we're gonna put a little bit of cheese in there. Just a little bit right there on top. And then now we're gonna give this a fold. So to fold it, grab a spatula and just come underneath gently. There's a little stick right there, so just be gentle, because if your pan sticks, you're the one who knows how your pan works. If it sticks, be prepared, okay? So now we've got like that. This is being difficult. I have to put the camera down. All right, so I flipped it. And now we're gonna move this back to the center of the pan and just let it finish cooking a little bit. You can give it a little bit of a press to get that heat in there. And then cover with the remainder of the cheese, like so. Just put that on there. And then we wanna pop our lid on and let that cheese melt. At this point, there's still heat coming up through the pan, so that bottom part of the egg is going to cook unless we get that heat off of there. So we're just going to turn it off and let the cheese melt, and the egg will finish cooking as well. All right, our omelet should be done now. Take that off, look at that. Get rid of the lid, and then this should just fold out into a plate. So we're gonna bring it over here and just take this omelet, make sure it's not stuck, and then we're just gonna drop it into this plate just like that. And that is right here. And that is a beautiful omelet. All right, so that is how we make eggs. We've got our omelet here, and we have the rest of our eggs here. So one more time, we did a poached egg first. We did a sunny side up egg. We did a over easy egg. We've got a medium egg, a hard fried egg, scrambled egg, and an omelet. I hope that you were able to learn some from my egg show, because cooking eggs is a fun and exciting thing if you know how to do it, because, you know, eggs are great. They're great. Eating and cooking and learning as you go is fantastic. So, as I said earlier, sometimes you're gonna have good, sometimes you're gonna have bad. So you just have to take the good, you take the bad, you take them both. And do I have to do this? Do you think I have to do it? I think I have to do it now. Because you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. The facts of life. There's a time you gotta go and show you're growing, now you know about the facts of life. The facts of life. When the world never seems to be living up to your dreams, suddenly you're finding out the facts of life are all about you. You. It takes a lot to get them right. When you're learning the facts of life, 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 learning the facts of life. All right, you didn't think I'd do it, did you? Well, I did it. All right, if you want to spend some more time learning how to cook, follow me on Instagram at Steve Loves to Cook, on YouTube at Mr. Steve Loves to Cook. You can always see my videos on Facebook as well. So I hope that you learned a lot today. Have a great day.